It's been a landmark year for capital punishment in the United States, with execution dates stacking up, and June 10th is shaping up to be one of the most pivotal yet. On that day, not one but two men are set to face the death chamber. One of them is Gregory Hunt in Alabama, whose chilling case I recently covered here on the channel. The other is Anthony Waywright, currently on Florida's death row. His story isn't just another legal footnote. It's a haunting tale of escape, desperation, and tragedy that began over 3 decades ago. Let's travel back to 1994, to the Carter Correctional Center in Newport, North Carolina, right here in the state I now call home. At the time, 23-year-old Anthony Waywright was serving a decade-long sentence for burglary. Sharing the facility with him was 31-year-old Richard Hamilton, locked up for 25 years on an armed robbery conviction. Though the prison was classified as minimum security, what happened next would shake public confidence in that label. On April 24th, under the cover of routine and shadows, Waywright and Hamilton broke free. Their escape was swift, bold, and meticulously timed. Once outside, the pair wasted no time. They stole a Cadillac, then burglarized a nearby home, stealing 2 rifles that would change the course of multiple lives. Now armed and mobile, they pointed their stolen car south, tearing through state lines into Florida, with law enforcement trailing just behind. By April 27th, they had made it to Lake City. The Cadillac was either overheating, or maybe paranoia had set in, and they feared being caught in a vehicle sure to be flagged as stolen. Whatever the reason, they abandoned it and began the hunt for a new car. Meanwhile, across town that same morning, 23-year-old Carmen Gayart sat in a classroom, focused on her studies. She was a nursing student, a mother of 2, and completely unaware that fate was about to cross her path with 2 men on the run, men whose next move would turn an ordinary spring day into a moment of horror that would echo for decades. After finishing her morning class at the local community college, 23-year-old Carmen Gayart was thinking only of her children. As a devoted mother of 2 and a determined nursing student, she had a tight routine: classes, errands, then straight to daycare. That April day in 1994 seemed no different. She made a quick stop at a Winn-Dixie supermarket, just a few blocks from the daycare center, to pick up a few groceries. But what began as an everyday moment turned into something unimaginable. As Carmen loaded bags into the back of her Ford Bronco, 2 men approached her. One of them, armed with a rifle, demanded she get behind the wheel. The men were Anthony Waywright and Richard Hamilton, escaped convicts on the run. Carmen, terrified but thinking of her children, complied. She was forced to drive 15 miles into a secluded stretch of rural Hamilton County, with 1 man beside her and the other trailing them in a stolen Cadillac. What happened in those woods would later be pieced together through forensic evidence and confessions. Carmen was assaulted in her own vehicle, robbed of her belongings, then brutally killed, strangled and shot with a .22 caliber rifle. Though the men later blamed each other for the killing, investigators made it clear the blame was shared. Carmen's body was left in the woods, her groceries scattered around her Bronco, a haunting scene that would stay etched in the minds of everyone who searched for her. The men fled in Carmen's Bronco, driving across state lines to Mississippi, where their flight would soon come to an end. When Carmen failed to pick up her children, alarm bells rang. Her family knew something was wrong. Search efforts began immediately. Hundreds of volunteers, law enforcement teams, and neighbors joined together in a desperate effort to bring her home. Days later, on a quiet highway in Mississippi, a state trooper on routine patrol spotted a Bronco with Florida plates. It didn't trigger any alarms, but something felt off. He followed it. Inside, Waywright was driving. Hamilton was in the passenger seat, rifle in hand. They realized they were being tailed As the stolen Ford Bronco crossed into Mississippi, it didn't go unnoticed. A state trooper on routine patrol spotted the Florida plates and, sensing something wasn't quite right, began trailing the vehicle. That moment of instinct would ignite a violent encounter. Sensing they were being followed, Richard Hamilton opened fire, unleashing a barrage that turned a quiet stretch of road into a war zone. More law enforcement officers quickly joined the pursuit, and a chaotic shootout ensued. When the dust settled, both fugitives, Anthony Waywright and Richard Hamilton, were critically wounded but alive. Waywright's injuries were reported to be the more severe of the two. They were taken into custody and rushed to a nearby hospital for emergency treatment, but the investigation was just beginning. Florida detectives wasted no time. They arrived in Mississippi to question the men, and what they heard confirmed their worst fears. Both Waywright and Hamilton confessed to abducting and murdering 23-year-old Carmen Gayart. However, in a desperate attempt to shift blame, each man accused the other of committing the most brutal parts of the crime. In a shocking twist, Hamilton claimed that during their flight from North Carolina, Waywright stopped to meet with alleged drug dealers and, according to Hamilton, murdered them to steal their drugs and money. Though that story was never verified, Hamilton attempted to aid investigators by drawing a map, a rough sketch that pointed them toward a wooded area near Jasper, Florida. On May 2nd, 1994, 5 days after Carmen's disappearance, search teams combed through the forest guided by Hamilton's sketch. There, in the quiet wilderness of Hamilton County, they made a heartbreaking discovery: Carmen's lifeless body lying beside the same groceries she'd intended to bring home to her children. The stolen Cadillac, abandoned and hidden, was also found nearby, providing more evidence of the fugitive's trail. In the midst of questioning, Waywright made a disturbing claim that he had a terminal illness and didn't care about the consequences of his actions. But that declaration, like so many in this case, couldn't be confirmed. Decades later, Waywright is still alive, casting doubt on whether his chilling words were rooted in truth or just manipulation. In 1995, the two men were extradited back to Florida to stand trial. Though they were tried together, each faced a separate jury, a strategy often used when co-defendants offer conflicting accounts. The outcome was the same. Both were found guilty, and both were sentenced to death. Justice, it seemed, had spoken. Today, Anthony Waywright, now 54, is scheduled for execution on June 10th. Richard Hamilton, however, won't face the same fate. In 2023, he was discovered dead in his prison cell at the age of 59, just 1 month shy of his 60th birthday. The state of Florida has withheld details about his cause of death, prompting quiet speculation. Some wonder if he had been the one truly suffering from the illness they once claimed haunted Waywright. But whatever the truth may be, it remains locked behind prison walls. Just another secret buried in a case already stained with loss, violence, and the haunting echo of a life taken too soon. Richard Hamilton spent 28 haunting years on Florida's death row, but justice in the legal sense never reached him. In court, rather than showing remorse, Hamilton shocked everyone with brazen displays of contempt, turning to Carmen Gayart's family to blow kisses, even toward her heartbroken, widowed husband. It was a disturbing and callous gesture that seared itself into the memories of those already grieving. Now, as Anthony Waywright approaches his scheduled execution on June 10th, 2025, the passage of time underscores the pain Carmen's family has endured. 30 years of waiting, mourning, and hoping that justice, at long last, will be fully served. Carmen Gayart's life was defined by compassion. Born and raised in Fort Lauderdale, she'd always dreamed of becoming a nurse, a career rooted in helping others. In 1994, she and her husband made the life-changing decision to move their family to Lake City in search of a quieter, safer community for their young children. But the dream of a fresh start was shattered just weeks later, replaced by a nightmare that would echo through decades. For her family, the pain has never dulled. Carmen's father passed away in 2013, his heart still heavy with unanswered prayers for justice. Her sister, Maria Tortora, lovingly described Carmen as the sweetest girl on the face of the earth, a reminder of the vibrant, kind soul they lost. Their mother, Joanne Tortora, has spoken candidly about her grief and unwavering stance on accountability. "I have friends who say, 'You can't move on until you forgive them,'" she once said, "but I can't. That would feel like a betrayal to my daughter. No, they deserve everything they get, and more." Carmen's story is more than a case number or a trial date. It's a painful, enduring symbol of a life taken far too soon. Her family has never let her memory fade into the background, never stopped speaking her name. And now, as June 10th draws near, the world watches, not just for the execution of a man convicted of unthinkable crimes, but for the long overdue closure that Carmen's loved ones still desperately seek.